So if you're an average worker out there, you're saying, hey, I'm working longer and longer hours, going nowhere in a hurry, worried about my kids, and yet the people on top have never had it so good. Where is the Democratic Party? Are they prepared to stand up to these powerful corporate interests, raise the minimum wage, fight for health care for all people, make sure that all of our kids get the quality education that they need, expand Social Security? Are they prepared to do those things? That's the issue that we have to address.
Well, as you know, your statement was met with some sharp reaction as well. This is what Speaker Emerita Nancy Pelosi had to say. Take a look. I'll get your reaction on the other side.
Bernie Sanders has not won. Let me, with all due respect, and I have a great deal of respect for him, for what he stands for, but I don't respect him saying that the Democratic Party has abandoned the working class families.
Senator, how do you respond to Nancy Pelosi?
Well, Nancy's a friend of mine, and we've worked together on many issues. But here is the reality. I have to say to Nancy, in the Senate in the last 2 years, we have not even brought forth legislation to raise the minimum wage to a living wage, despite the fact that some 20 million people in this country are working for less than $15 an hour. In America today, we have not brought, in the Senate, we have not brought to the floor the PRO Act to make it easier for workers to join unions. We're not talking about defined benefit pension plans so that our elderly can retire with security. We're not talking about lifting the cap on Social Security so that we can extend the solvency of Social Security and raise benefits. Bottom line, if you're an average working person out there, do you really think that the Democratic Party is going to the mats, taking on powerful special interests and fighting for you? I think the overwhelming answer is no. And that is what has got to change.
Dude, people are... I'm seeing Lebanon libbing out pretty hard. I used to love you, Bernie, but I'm so disappointed you're validating hate. This is just wrong. Bernie, I love you, but not now. Work on recounts. Democrats lost because they refused to acknowledge Palestine. Okay, that's fair. You can't ignore the country's deep-seated racism and misogyny. Those comments are so out of touch. How, when Harris spoke of her policies to make the economy better for us and to provide more opportunities for people who purchase homes, etc., we lost because people don't want to see a black woman become president. Like, you are not hearing anything. If that is your analysis of this circumstance, if that's your analysis, you're not hearing anything. Television Man told you $50,000 in tax cuts for small businesses is good, and that's like solid economic policy. So you're like, what do you mean? Everybody said that that was like the best possible thing to say. And I don't understand it. Like, it doesn't make sense. You misspelled white supremacy, but go off. No, Bernie, Democrats lost because the majority of Americans have lost the ability and the interest in telling truth apart from fiction. It's that simple. It's sad because, like, there's so much that is somewhat correct in this assessment, but that's just the fucking table, you know? You can't demand to play a different board game when you're playing Monopoly, okay? You can't be like, well, I think we should play as though we're playing Risk. No, man, you're playing Monopoly. Play by the fucking rules, you know? It just doesn't make sense. Like, the reality of the matter is everyone that says racism and misogyny is a factor in this, or white supremacy is a factor in this, yeah, they're not wrong. Of course it is a factor in this. That's America. But Trump doesn't play by the rules. That's a fantastic point that you just made. Exactly. Trump never, on the other hand, complains, though, in the sense that, like, his complaints are always echoing the resentment that, like, average Americans feel, even if it's on his own personal key issues. He has a perfect way of tying that back to his own audience. I mean, he channels that they're not coming after me. They're coming after you. I'm just in the way. Every single argument that he makes is basically that. I've never seen somebody like Donald Trump, a zesty ass, ace, biromantic, you know, queer visibility candidate, a liberal his whole life, a billionaire real estate developer, shits on a golden toilet, lives in an ivory tower, born with a fucking silver spoon, going to, you know, the Rust Belt and complaining about sissy Graydon Carter and his Vanity Fair parties and have people go, hell yes, sir, you're right. Everything that he complains about, people think he's like shitting on the liberal elite. I feel like if Kamala Harris ran and was like consistently talking about how racist and white supremacist America was, that would be objectively depressing for her own turnout.
That's to me what the issue is.
Yeah, we're talking a lot about the economics. You've talked about how the Democratic Party is out of touch when it comes to economic issues. Some Democrats are saying it's not just economic issues, it's cultural issues as well. Here's what Democratic strategist James Carville had to say. Take a look.
What killed the Democrats was a sense of disorder. And part of the sense of disorder was the unfortunate events of what I would refer to as the woke era.
Has the Democratic Party's focus on identity politics gone too far, Senator?
Let me answer it this way. I think if the Democratic Party must continue to stand up against all forms of bigotry. And Democrats should hold their head high in saying, we led the fight for women's rights and to protect the woman's constitutional right for abortion. We led the fight for civil rights, for gay rights. That is something we should be proud of. But it's not either or, Chris, and this is the problem. You can do both. You could say that I'm for raising.
I take it one step further. I say one can only happen with the other. Because if you don't win elections, you can't do in legislation that protects marginalized communities. And if you want to win elections, you have to have a populist left economic message. You can be uncompromising in your values while simultaneously asking people, does this put food on your fucking table or not? A question I keep repeating to people that come to me on a daily basis about trans rights is always this. Let's say you forcibly reversed the HRT and gender surgeries of every single trans person in America. Does that immediately or even in the future improve your material conditions? Does that put more food on your table? Does that make your shelter more secure? Does that lower the price of rent? Does that actually help you in any meaningful way? Okay, it's not going to lower the price of eggs. Someone has told you that you should focus on this. And the other side of this, in terms of like constantly doing hyper specific messaging to different identity groups within the base that we understand it of the Democratic Party, is also silly, because it's not like trans people exist in a separate plane of existence. Like, they still have the rent. You think trans people are not going to benefit from universal health care? You think trans people are not going to benefit from lowering the cost of housing? Yeah, of course they're going to benefit. Same with black people. Same with Latino people. This is why left economic populism is very successful. You fight the battles that you have to fight to defend trans people while you simultaneously offer everyone something that gets them on board. You say Medicare for all means for all. It means for you, and it means for trans people too. There's no world where we're like, nah, we're going to gut this. Fuck that.
Raising the minimum wage to a living wage, guarantee health care for all people, expanding Social Security. And by the way, I also support a woman's right to control her own body, etc. It's not either or. It's going forward in both directions.
You know, I've been speaking to some Democrats who are concerned because now President-elect Trump has beaten 2 women candidates, and their concern is that it will make it more difficult to nominate a woman candidate in the future. Do you share that concern, Senator?
No, I don't.